Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of the Articulate Fly. We're back with another Central Virginia fishing report with Ethan Martin at TaleTellers Fly Shop. How you doing, Ethan?
I'm doing good today. How are you doing?
As always, just trying to stay out of trouble. And, I talked to Matt yesterday, and, you're close by, so, it's cooling off and it's wet. What are you seeing on the water in Central Virginia?
It's been a pretty mixed bag because, our water temps are still like upper 80s, so that's talking on the bigger rivers like the James and our lakes. So it's kind of funny how, you get a week where it feels like fall, but the fish still assume that it's summer because they're not feeling the temperatures that we're feeling. But this past weekend, seen some people who've caught some pretty decent fish. Top water bite's been pretty decent still. And then talked to some people who just couldn't quite figure out what was going on. So it's a little bit of that transition time. When you have murky water, the James isn't really necessarily like been blown out in terms of the height of the actual river. But the color kind of went off color there for a little bit, especially like downtown here in Lynchburg. And so that's, been somewhat of a factor. And so the main thing I've just been telling people is you won't know if you don't go. So you just get out there and for me, still bait fish patterns and top water has been the main thing that I've been using. But if you want to just go and take a crayfish off the bottom, that's been catching some fish too. So a little bit of all options are on the table right now when it comes to the bigger rivers. Because again, this fish, they can feel that temperature change for sure. So stuff might be shifting, but it hasn't been like massive in terms of how big the temp drop has been. Despite the fact that we've had some nights that have been in 50 degrees. So it's interesting. It's a weird August, really weird August.
Yeah, so they haven't gotten the memo to start putting the feedback on yet, but things are changing. And so I guess if people start out fishing topwater in the morning and they're not having luck, they probably need to switch to streamers to cover more territory to try to find the fish, right?
That's what I would do. Yep.
Yeah.
And the main thing, when it comes to color or size and all that stuff is the two questions I usually ask myself is, do I want to catch a ton of fish this day or do I want to just try and catch one bigger one? If you want to catch just numbers, then, a woolly bugger or something like that, size 6 or size 4 on the bigger size of things, for a woolly bugger or a streamer that's like 3-ish inches, that's going to find a ton of smallmouth and, big fish will eat that too. But if you really just want to look for larger fish, then you could throw like a large dudgeon, or some pattern that's closer to 4 to 5 inches. But smallmouth, a lot of times they'll eat stuff that's smaller. It's not necessarily like the musky game where it's go big or go home, on our watersheds at least. So yeah, that's my next step. And then if it's like super murky water, then usually I'm going to go towards like a black colored fly or just something darker to give a better silhouette. If it's like crystal clear, then I usually go with a white or a tan color and then minimal flash. And that usually is, how I try to swing it for myself. But some days, nothing makes sense. So
yeah, well, that's why they call it fishing. And then I guess, the good news with the rain and the cooler temperatures is I imagine, your mountain trout fishing is starting to come back.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I've got a couple people that are going out today to give me some temps on a couple different streams. So I'll definitely know more by the weekend. So if you're listening to this and you're wondering, you can give me a call. But like I said, in Lynchburg itself, so, down off the mountains, it's been, our nights have been 50s for a couple of nights. So typically whatever is happening here is happening even a little bit more extreme towards the mountains. So my assumption would be that those temps have dropped a little bit and those streams are more fluid, so whatever the outside air temperature is typically is going to impact the actual stream a lot faster, as well as increased rainflow. So, and we've had both of those things. So, should still be a viable option, and especially, if you're willing to drive just a little bit out of town. But then, within that too, that's still summer. So you're still going to have all of the summer critters that are out as well. So if you are not like a snake guy or anything like that, then you might want to wait till it's a little bit colder. But if you're brave,
if you want to catch fish, and if you do go up there, obviously be careful, watch out for snakes. Don't put your hands and feet where you can't see them and always look before you step over logs. But, I'd imagine, it's that terrestrial game, right? It's going to be ants and beetles and probably, any bushy dry fly that's probably yellow or orange will get it done too.
Yep. Yeah, they're not going to be too picky. The main thing to keep in mind is that, a lot of times towards the spring, I throw stuff that's like pretty large, size 10s. I've thrown size 8s. And brook trout eat them, readily. And then usually, though, as the water drops, the water levels, then, your smaller patterns are going to come back into play. So smaller for me on brook trout stream is going to be like a size 14, right? I think maybe a few times I've thrown 16s, but really that's pretty rare. So if you've got beetles and ants patterns in like size 12s and 14s, that's what I would pretty much be sticking with. I wouldn't go much smaller because I don't think that's necessary. But the bigger patterns, a lot of times they'll get swatted, but they won't actually eat the thing, or they just won't even be quite as aggressive. So it's one of those things, like you can go out and throw a big pattern and you're going to catch fish, but you can go out and throw a smaller pattern or medium size and you're going to catch more fish. So it just depends on what you want to do.
Yeah. And the other thing too is kind of on the hatch front, right? Is the hatches progress through the seasons for those bugs that kind of have multiple broods, they get smaller and smaller and smaller. So that's another reason to downsize as you kind of start fishing mayflies later into the season.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, listen, folks, we love questions at the Articulate Fly. You can email them to us. You can DM us on social media. You can drop them in the comments to our social media posts, whatever's easiest for you. If we use your question, I will send you some Articulate Fly swag. We are drawing for something cool from the shop at the end of the season. And Ethan, before I let you go, you want to let folks know where you are, hours, and all that kind of good stuff?
Yep. So we're located in downtown Lynchburg, Virginia. We're on Main Street, right in the middle. So it's pretty easy to find us. They've got the James River here right in our backyard. So if you come into town, you can very easily just go and wade fish and catch some smallmouth, and then go have, lunch afterwards and see us. And then if you can't make it into the store, you can find pretty much all of our products online at TaleTellersVA.com. And if you have any questions, you can direct, we have phone, we have Instagram, Facebook, email, all that stuff. So just shoot them our way and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
Well, there you go. Well, listen, folks, you owe it to yourself to get out there and catch a few. Tight lines, everybody. Tight lines, Ethan.
Tight lines.